On February next year, 2025, at the 38th AU Summit, there will be an election of the chairperson, the deputy chairperson, and 8 other commissioners that will form the next AU executive. Raila Odinga, the candidate from Kenya, has been endorsed by a total of 20 countries. And these countries are, this is how Raila Odinga will be elected for the AUC chairmanship. Much has been said about the AUC candidates, and much has been talked about the current candidates that are going head to head, that is Raila Odinga and Mohamed Yusuf. But little has been said about the process in which these candidates will be elected. So this is how Mohamed Yusuf, or rather, this is how Raila Odinga will be elected for the AUC chairmanship. Before we dive in, if you're passionate about African politics and want to stay updated on key developments across the continent, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You'll be the first to know when we drop insightful videos like this one. The voting takes place in the AU Summit. This is a congregation of all presidents and heads of states in Africa that happens at the headquarters, that is Addis Ababa. And this will encompass all regions of Africa. As you know, Africa is divided into 5 main regions. That is the North, the South, the East, the West, and the Central. So all these regions will have their nominated members accordingly to how they are supposed to be nominated as per the region that is supposed to produce the chairperson, the region that's supposed to produce the deputy chairperson, and other commissioners. Mind you, on February next year, 2025, at the 38th AU Summit, there will be an election of the chairperson, the deputy chairperson, and 8 other commissioners that will form the next AU executive or commission. So that means that if we are going to have a leader from the East Africa or the Eastern Africa, that means that the deputy is going to come from Northern Africa, that is as it has been stipulated in these AUC elections. And then you're going to have 8 other commissioners represented in all other regions. And as per AU, all these 8 commissioners are to be selected differently. First, the region that gives the chairperson and the deputy chairperson are to nominate 1 commissioner each. And then the remainder of the regions will nominate 2 commissioners each, who will be elected by the Executive Council. The Executive Council is the council of foreign ministers of all African states that will also be meeting at Addis Ababa during the 38th AU Summit. So in the election of the chairperson and the deputy chairperson, that one is the reserve of heads of states and presidents around Africa. So only heads of states or heads of government will be allowed to take part in the election of the AU chairperson and AU deputy chairperson. So that means that no other person will be allowed to take that vote. And if a particular head of state will not be around or will not be able to attend that event, they can designate their right to vote to any other official. Most likely the foreign secretary of that particular country will be designated the right to vote for that particular head of government or president that is not present at that particular meeting. So basically, the first person to be elected in that congregation will be the chairperson, followed by the deputy chairperson, and then the commissioners. So in electing the chairperson, a lot has to be factored in. The first one is that this chairperson has to be elected by 2/3 of all the members represented in that sitting. So that person needs to have 2/3 majority to be elected and to be certified as the winner of that election. So for example, right now we have 4 contestants. Now, if we have 4 of these, they're going to be voted, and only the one that will have 2/3 majority is the one that is going to be appointed or officially termed to be elected as the chairperson of the AUC. That means that if they go for a vote and none gets 2/3 majority, they'll have to redo the votes again for 3 good times. If they go for 3 times and no one is still getting the 2/3 majority, the candidates with the least number of votes will keep dropping out. And if there are 2 remaining candidates and the one with the least amount of votes drops out and the one remaining still cannot achieve 2/3 majority, what happens is that the chairperson will suspend the election, that is the current chairperson. The elections of the deputy chairperson will happen, and the deputy chairperson elected will take over as the interim chairperson, and that interim chairperson will oversee another process to start again from scratch to have another chairperson from the region that is supposed to produce the chairperson. So after the chairperson has been voted in, given that they satisfy the 2/3 rule, what happens next is the election of the deputy chairperson that takes a similar route as the chairperson. And then after the 2 have been elected, the next people to be voted in now will be the commissioners. And the commissioners are voted in by the ministers of foreign affairs of all the states in Africa represented at the Africa Union. So another person will ask, who are the people who are eligible to vote at the Africa Union? Not all countries will participate in the coming elections in the Africa Union. There are some countries that will not participate in the Africa Union elections that will be held in February next year. Countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, and other countries that have undergone coup will not participate in the Africa Union elections to choose the AUC chairperson or deputy or commissioners. This is because they have been banned from AU activities due to their governments being unstable or their governments having undergone coups that makes those presidents or those leaders not to be accepted as legitimate leaders of those nations. So countries like Burkina Faso, countries like Mali, countries like Guinea, and the rest of Africa, of African states that have been taken over through coups, will not vote in the coming AUC elections unless the voting rules change to accommodate those countries. So the current candidates have been endorsed by different countries so far, officially endorsed and not just by hearsay. And we have candidates from Djibouti, Kenya, Mauritius, and Madagascar. And the candidate from Djibouti is Mohamed Ali Yusuf. And Mohamed Ali Yusuf has been endorsed by 2 countries, that is his own country and Somalia. Another candidate, that is Anil Gayan from Mauritius, has been endorsed by only 1 country, and that is his country, Mauritius. Raila Odinga, the candidate from Kenya, has been endorsed by a total of 20 countries. And these countries are Algeria, Angola, Burundi, Central African Republic, Congo, DRC, Equatorial Guinea, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Malawi, Nigeria, Rwanda, Seychelles, South Africa, South Sudan, Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and recently he has also been endorsed by the East African Community. That one also counts. And then lastly, we have the candidate from Madagascar, that is Richard Randriamandrato, who has also been endorsed by his own country, that is Madagascar. As well as Raila Odinga has also been endorsed by Kenya, to make it a total of 20 countries that have endorsed Raila Odinga. So these endorsements are going to count in the final tally. This goodwill from these countries are going to count in influence that these candidates are going to make from other countries. If a country sees that a particular candidate has already been endorsed by a total of 20 countries, even without having to struggle so much, then it will be easier for them to convince more countries to endorse them, as opposed to a candidate that has not been endorsed by any other country but their own country.